In 2024, Italy recorded just 370,000 births, the lowest number since the country's unification in 1861. That's a 2.6% drop from the year before, and the 16th consecutive year of decline. But this wasn't always the case. In the 1950s and 60s, Italy had a vibrant baby boom. Families had 4, 5, even 6 children. The nation was young and growing. So what changed? How did a land built on family come to forget to reproduce? In the aftermath of World War II, Italy experienced a robust baby boom much like other Western nations. Births surged throughout the 1950s and early 1960s, fueled by post-war optimism and a traditional family culture. At the peak of the boom in 1964, Italy registered about 1 million births, an astonishing figure that has never been repeated. The total fertility rate hovered around 2.5 to 2.7 in the 1950s and early 60s, well above the 2.1 needed for a stable population. Large families were common and Italy's population was young and growing. The country's population increased from 47.5 million in 1951 to over 54 million by 1971, thanks in part to high birth rates that persisted until the 1970s. Several factors underpin this baby boom. Economically, the post-war boom years provided plentiful jobs for men, allowing them to support families, while women's career opportunities were limited, especially in conservative Catholic Italy. Early marriage and multiple children were the norm for many. By the mid-1960s, Italy's demographic bounty was apparent. The nation had never had so many children, but this boom contained the seeds of its own decline. Starting in the late 1960s and accelerating through the 70s, Italy underwent rapid social and economic changes that caused birth rates to nosedive. The total fertility rate fell by 55% between 1965 and 1990, plummeting from well above 2 to around 1.3. One factor was the women's liberation movement and changing gender roles. Divorce was legalized in 1970, and despite fierce opposition from the Catholic establishment, a 1974 referendum confirmed Italians' acceptance of divorce. Birth control became more accessible. The birth control pill was officially legalized in 1971. Abortion was legalized in 1978 after a passionate feminist campaign challenged the Church's stance on it. The declining influence of the Catholic Church went hand in hand with these changes. For much of the 20th century, the Church had staunchly defended a traditional family model, but as Italian society secularized, the Church's teachings on family size held less sway. In practice, even many church-going Italians began to disregard the Vatican's ban on contraception in order to limit their family size. Another aspect of modernization was urbanization and the changing family structure. During the boom years, many Italians had lived in extended families or in close-knit rural communities, where child rearing was a shared endeavor. By the 1970s, however, millions had migrated from poor southern regions to the industrial cities of the north. This internal migration broke many extended family networks. Thus, within a single generation, Italy moved from one of Europe's most fertile countries to one of its least. High fertility persisted until the 70s, but thereafter Italy's birth rate underwent a complete collapse. Let's expand on economic pressures and the struggles of Italy's youth. Italy consistently has one of the highest youth unemployment rates in Europe. As of early 2024, youth unemployment rate was around 22%. Even those with jobs often face short-term contracts, low pay, and few prospects for advancement. Faced with economic insecurity, many young Italians delay marriage and childbearing. The average age of mothers at first birth is now 31.6, up from 29.7 in 2002. Another factor is housing insecurity. A remarkable 67% of Italians aged 18 to 34 live with at least one parent. And in regions like the South, this number is as high as 75%. Another impact is the brain drain. In 2018 alone, nearly 157,000 people left the country, a large number for a nation of 60 million. Small towns, especially in the poorer South, have been gutted of young adults who seek jobs in cities like London. By the 2010s and 2020s, Italy's demographic crisis had fully materialized. Birth rates have continued to hit historic lows year after year. In 2022, Italy recorded only 393,000 births, the lowest number since national unification in the 19th century. The total fertility rate stands around 1.24 and has been fluctuating in the low 1.2 to 1.3 range for over a decade. This is one of the lowest in the world, on par with countries like Japan and South Korea. Italy is also one of the oldest countries in the world. The median age is about 48 years old. Already by the end of the 2000s, 1 in 5 Italians were over 65. Today, it's roughly 1 in 4. After peaking around 60.8 million in 2014, Italy's population began to decline. By early 2024, it was estimated at 58.9 million, dropping below 59 million for the first time in years. Looking forward ahead, the United Nations forecast that by 2100, Italy could lose 40% of its population. Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni, who took office in 2022, has declared the birth rate crisis to be the highest priority for her government. A new ministry for the birth rate was created, and various incentives are being proposed. Immigration, which could in theory fill some population gaps, is a politically sensitive topic. Meloni's government has been reluctant to promote immigration as a solution. Instead, the focus is on persuading Italians to have more children. Elon Musk is a person who has warned about population collapse, with Meloni inviting him to discuss Italy's plight. Despite these high-level acknowledgments, the demographic ship is slow to turn. But one does not need to look to 2050 or 2100 to witness the effects of Italy's demographic decline. In Italy's vast rural lands, ghost towns and empty houses have become widespread. By one estimate, there are over 2,500 towns and villages that are perilously depopulated. Across Italy, more than 2 million homes are vacant in these depopulated areas, taken over by ivy and silence. Another telling sign of demographic collapse is the closure of schools. This grim fate hit the village of Ciamprocura in northern Italy. In 2022, its primary school shut down after only 2 pupils enrolled. Infant and primary schools have lost nearly 30% of its students in the last decade. A recent analysis warned Italian schools are vanishing like the melting glaciers. Another grim fact is the rise of aging communities. In towns that once had young families, one now sees mostly the elderly. Parks and playgrounds are quiet. In some villages, the only gatherings are funerals rather than baptisms. But can Italy get out of this? Italy is not alone in this. Most of Europe and East Asia face similar fertility dilemmas. But Italy's combination of one of the lowest birth rates and one of the highest life expectancies makes its aging and decline particularly acute. As such, the world is watching how Italy confronts this challenge. Thanks for watching.